Hi there and welcome to Tech Life, a channel where I aim to review everything from selfie sticks to laptops to IDs for coding, video editing, software for producing thumbnails, essentially anything tech related. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you have anything that you think I should review, please let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to review that product. In this video, we're going to be looking at strings in Python. If you watched part 2 of this series, you might recall we created a string variable called model. And in order to assign a string to that variable, we put the text in quotes. So let's just fire up Visual Studio Code. And this is the variable that I'm talking about. So it's called model. And we assign the value Aventador, and we encase that Aventador text in quotes. So if we see this in action, let's run the Python file. And we can see down here the output from this print statement is Aventador. Okay. Python allows us to either encase the string in double quotes or single quotes. Let's just leave some space here. So we've got model and it's equal to Aventador now, but if you notice that Aventador is in single quotes, and if I do Control S to save, and then we run this code by clicking the run Python file, again we get the same output, Aventador. So Python allows us to use either double quotes or single quotes for strings. So in Python, we can use triple quotes. Triple quotes in Python are used to format a long string. So for example, if we want to provide a detailed description of a Lamborghini, we could do something like this. Let me create another variable. I'm going to call it description. And I'm going to say description equals, and then we're going to follow that up with three quotes. So that's 2, and that's 3 quotes. I'm just going to jump on to a different line, and I'm going to type in description colons dash, and I've got a large piece of text in the clipboard, so if I do Control V, I can paste that in place. Let's tidy this up slightly. And then if I come to the end of this line and hit return, and then I close off the 3 quotes, 1, 2, 3. So just to recap on what we did, we created another variable. It's called description, and I'm using the triple quotes so that I can enter or store a large piece of formatted text into this variable, and then we can use a print statement to output that value by using the variable name. So I'm going to print out whatever stored in this variable description. Control S to save, and we're going to click this run button, and we can see the output is the long string formatted in the manner that we've stored it. Next, we're going to look at functions that we can use to manipulate strings. Quite often in programming, you will need to count the number of characters in a string, or maybe split a string up into smaller substrings. And Python, just like most other high-level programming languages, has built-in functions that allow us to do this. Functions are essentially reusable pieces of code that perform certain tasks. We're going to look at functions more closely in an upcoming video, but for now I'm going to show you just a few functions that we can use to manipulate strings. So the first one we're going to look at is a function called len, L-E-N, and this counts the length of a string. So I'm just gonna clear this up slightly. And so, as I said, we're going to use a function called len, and len will take an argument of a type string. Arguments are values that we pass into our functions. So here I'm going to type in Lamborghini. So this function len is going to count the number of characters within this string and then return or output a number. And I'm going to have to use len in conjunction with this print function in order to display the output of this function. So we're going to put in print, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. I'm just going to delete this for now. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to clear that screen. So if I do Control S to save, and we push this play button, we get a value of 11. And that's because we've got 11 characters within this word Lamborghini. So that's the len function. We can also do something like this. We can store a value to a variable. So we can store a string value to a variable, and then instead of passing in an actual string into len, we can pass in the variable name. Copy. So now len won't count the number of characters in this variable name. It's going to count the number of characters that are stored within this variable. So it's going to count the number of variables contained in this string Aventador. And again, we're going to use len in conjunction with print because we want to print out the value returned by len. So let me just delete this. So now if I do Control S to save and then play, and then we can see a value of 9 being returned because there are 9 characters that make up the word Aventador. Okay, so that is the len function. Let's have a look at another example. What if we wanted to obtain the 5th character in a string? So we've got this string already saved within a variable called model, and if we wanted to obtain the 5th character, so the letter T, if we wanted to access the letter T or return the letter T from there, we could simply use the print function again, and then the name of our variable, which is model, and then we would use square brackets, and then we would use an integer, and in this case we're going to use a number 4. And the reason we use number 4 is because Python is a zero indexed language. So the very first character, this A, would be indexed at an index number of 0. So we would be starting at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me delete this for now so we don't get confused. And let's just clear the screen here. And Control S to save and then run. And we can see the letter T down here being output. Just there. Okay, just to recap on what we did. We had a variable that already contained a string, and that string is the Aventador, and we wanted to output the fifth character within that string, and we used the number 4 because Python is a zero index language, so the very first character, the index for that would be 0. Let's just see that in action. So if I type in 0 here, so now I'm saying return the very first character that is contained within this variable. So Control S, run, and we can see that A is returned because that is the very first character. And let's just clear the screen. Okay, so in Python we can actually use minus indexes. So that's a 0. That 0 allows us to access this very first character. So if we typed in -1, what would that return? Let's just have a quick look. So if I do Control S to save, and then I play, or I run the program, and we zoom in, we can see an R is returned, the letter R, sorry, the character R. We can see that the character R is the last letter of Aventador. So essentially what Python has done, it's got to this index 0 as the very first character, and then a -1, it's looped around and gone back to here. So -1 is returning this R. Let's see what -2 does. Control S. Control S to save. We can see that O is returned. Let me make this a bit more clearer. If I do, and then I clear the screen. And let's run that again. And we can see O is returned. And that's because the index has looped round. So this is 0, A is 0. It loops round, and so -1 is R, and therefore -2 is O. Okay, so if you wanted to get a part of a string, we could do the following. We've still got this model variable. It still contains this string value, Aventador. And now I'm going to say I want the first 3 characters of that variable. So I'm going to start at 0 because it's 0 indexed, and I'm going to put a colon, and I'm going to say return the first 3 characters. Control S to save and then run. And if I zoom in, we can see that the first three characters of the variable have been returned avn from Aventador. If we got rid of this number 3 and just left the 0 and the colon with Control S, let me just clear the screen and we run this now, we can see that all the characters stored in the variable model have been returned. And we get Python is essentially saying start at index 0 and then return everything after that. And if we do something like this, so we haven't defined the start, but we want 3 up to 3 characters. Let's see what this does. Control S and run, and now it's returning the first 3 characters again. So it's essentially looking at that and saying, okay, I'm going to start at the first available index, which is 0, and I'm going to go and return the first 3 characters. So it's returned AVN. Sorry, AVE. First 3 characters, not AVN. Okay. And lastly, what if we just got rid of those numbers? Control S to save. And this time it's returned all those characters, so the full name Aventador. So returns everything. So continuing with our theme of manipulating strings, we can join strings together. So if I just make some room here, and let me get rid of these variables because we haven't used those at all during this tutorial. So I've got one string variable called model, and I'm going to create another, and I'm going to call this make. So I'm going to say make is equal to Lamborghini. So I've got 2 string variables now. I've got one called make and one called the model, and I want to join both of these together, and I can do that by using this print statement, and I can say something like make, and I use a plus sign to concatenate a string with another string, and the initial string that I'm going to concatenate to the make variable is an empty string, and then I'm going to concatenate this empty string to the variable model. Just to recap on what we've done, we want to join make and model together, but we want to leave a space in between. So I've used the name of the variable make because I want this print function to output the value of make. So it's going to essentially print out Lamborghini space and then Aventador. Okay, let's see this in action. I'm going to do Control S to save. I'm going to come down here and just do a clear screen, and then we're going to run this. And we can see that Lamborghini Aventador was printed out. Had we not concatenated, had we not inserted this space, and we did something like this, concatenating just make and model, Control S, run that. It would have just output Lamborghini Aventador without a space in between. Okay, so let's just revert back to concatenating the space. So this, just a quick recap, so this will output the value contained in make. It will insert a space, and then it will output the value contained in a model. And it's fine to do it this way, but this is really an old-fashioned way of doing things. A new way of doing the exact same thing is to use formatted strings. And in order to do that, we can firstly create another variable. I'm going to call it make model. Oops, let's use the correct case. Make model. And I'm going to say make model is equal to a lowercase f, and then inverted commas, and then curly brackets, and then make space curly brackets again, and then model. And now, instead of printing make and model together like that, I'm just going to output to the screen make model. Control S to save this, clear that screen and run. And we can see that Lamborghini Aventador is printed to the terminal. In Python, as with many other high-level languages, strings are objects, and objects have methods and functions associated with them. In Python, there are quite a few methods that are specific to strings. Using dot notation, we can access these methods. So we're going to look at a few of these methods now. So I'm just going to delete this. And we've already got a couple of string variables created, and I'm going to just use one of these for now. So I'm going to say make, and then I'm going to follow that up with a dot, and as soon as I type in the dot, then I'm presented with this list. This list is a list of methods that are associated with this object, and we probably won't ever use most of these, but there are some here that are very useful when we are manipulating strings. So let's just pick one. If I type in upper, okay. So I'm going to use make.upper, and I'm going to encase that in a print statement because I want to see the output of this. I'm just going to delete that. Clean this up slightly. Okay, so just to recap, make is an object of type string. Objects have methods associated to them. We can access those methods by using this dot notation, and one of those methods is called upper, and so we're going to call this upper method of this make object. So Control S to save, and run that. And if I zoom in here, you can see the word Lamborghini. All the characters within the Lamborghini string have been capitalized. They've been converted to uppercase. So that's what upper does. It takes a string, so the value stored within make had a capital L, and then all the other characters, oops, all the other characters after L were lowercase, but calling the upper method on make converted those characters into uppercase. And we can do the reverse. There's going to be a method called lower as well. So if I do Control S and run that, and we zoom in, and we can see that now Lamborghini is all in lowercase. And when we manipulate strings, we have to remember that strings, again, as with many other languages, are immutable in that once a string is created, it can't be changed. And every time we make a change to that string, a new string is created. So this string is left where it is, but when we call a method on this existing string, a brand new string is created. So Lamborghini in uppercase would have been created, and Lamborghini in lowercase would have been created. But this string here, stored in make, would still be exactly the same. It would not have changed. Immutable means that something cannot be changed. Okay, so that's what upper and lower does. Let's have a look at a couple other methods. If I remember correctly, there's one called title. Yeah. So if I change that to make.title, I'm just going to make a quick change to a lowercase l there. And we are going to Control S to save. And then run this. Okay, so we've got a lowercase l there. If I just zoom in here, you can see that it's converted it into an uppercase L. So that's what title does. Let's just change this slightly. I'll put a space and we do something like this. Collada. And we do Control S again. Let me just clear the screen here and we do run. So now it converts the first character of both of those words into uppercase, whereas we saved them with a lowercase l and g, so that's title. Okay, let's have a quick look at some others. There is a method called strip. So if I do dot s t r strip, okay, cool. Open and close parentheses, and this tooltip tells us return a copy of the string with leading and trailing white spaces removed. So let's just put in some spaces here. So make is equal to space Lamborghini space Gallardo space, and then we're going to print out let's actually print out make before we strip out the spaces, and then after we strip out the spaces. Control S to save and run. So when we print make without stripping out the spaces, we can see there are some leading spaces, and there'll be space after here. But after we've called strip on make, then those spaces have gone. Okay. There's a couple of variants of strip. So there's the L strip, which basically strips out spaces from the left hand side, and there is an R strip, which will strip out spaces from the right hand side. Let me show you L strip. So it's going to get rid of the spaces on the left hand side over here. Control S. Let's clear this. And so L strip will strip out the spaces on the left. So that's what it's done here. I can use R strip as well, but it's less obvious for me to show you. I can call R strip, Control S to save, and let's just clear the screen and run it. So you can have to take my word for it, and it will have stripped out any spaces after here. And let's look at one last method before we wrap up. There is a method called find, and find is used to find the index of a character or a group of characters within a string. So if I use open and close parentheses, and then within these parentheses I have to pass in a character or a group of characters, and let's just pass in GA. Let's pass in GA for now. So we're saying create a variable called make. Let's get rid of these leading spaces. Store the string Lamborghini Gallardo to it, and then let's get rid of this. Then call the find function and return the index if the characters G and A are found. So it should find G and A here. Let's save this. Let me clear the screen down here, and let's run this. And it's returned an integer of 12, so that is the index. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12. So that's where G and A start. So that's returned the index 12. If I pass in an argument that can't be found, so I'm going to pass in a capital GA. And if you remember, Python is case sensitive. A GA should not be found because all of these characters, especially G and A up here are lowercase, so this should not be found. So Control S and run that, and the -1 is returned this time. The -1 indicates that the character or the group of characters that we're looking for can't be found. Okay, I think that's it for this video. Let's have a quick recap on what we looked at. We said that we can use either single or double quotes to create strings. We can also use triple quotes in Python to format a long string. Then we looked at the len function. The len function enables us to count the number of characters within a string. We use the square bracket notation in order to access different elements within a string. And we said that Python uses zero indexing, meaning that the very first element is accessed using an index number of 0. We looked at two ways to join strings, the older version of concatenating, and then the newer version of using formatted strings. We stated that strings are immutable in Python, therefore a new string is created whenever we modify an existing string. And finally, we looked at a number of useful methods of the string object. Okay, so on that note, thank you so much for watching. Please do look out for part 4 of this series where we'll be taking a closer look at numbers. Thank you.